G'day there guys, it's your boy I Read Reddit back at it again with some more Entitled Parent stories. Today we've got another series by Amin Abdul Awal, so sit back, relax and throw some shrimps in the barbie, because I really hope you enjoy this one. Our first story is entitled, Forget Studying, Just Work a Minimum Wage Job All Your Life Like My Kid. Apologies for the horrendous grammar, I'm currently high on Viagra, so my trousers felt too tight, thus making it very hard to move right now. Come on guys, you know that one's satire. Right? This happened 2 years ago. Backstory. During my secondary years, I had this kid who was a total jerk. This kid was well above 6 feet, whilst I was about 5 feet. Important later. Every time the entitled kid would fudge with me, the entitled mother would apologize and slap the kid in front of everyone, embarrassing him. After my GCSE, I made a plan for the next 5 to 7 years. First 2 to 3 years in college, and then 3 years in university, then go on a world tour for about 1 year. I managed to get into a decent college. As for the entitled kid, he had no plan, and he didn't get accepted by any colleges. This ticked his mother off. Story starts. Fast forward to a class meetup. We hold these often, as we all ended up becoming friends. So we were eating and talking about what we would do after secondary. Eventually it came to my turn. The entitled kid says, "So, OP, what are you going to do?" Well, I'm going to college, and I'm going to refine my memorization of the Quran, which is also important later. Okay, well good luck. By the way, he wasn't a jerk around other people. I go home thinking nothing much of it when the entitled mother calls on the landline. Yeah, call me old-fashioned, but I like it. Hello? Oh, hello! They have a bit of small talk, and then my aims and life goals are brought up. This conversation was told by my mother, so I'll just have to summarize it. Apparently the entitled kid told the entitled mother my plans, and the mother, being the jerk she is, wasn't happy. The next part I heard because my mum called me from my room. She then put the phone on loudspeaker. Entitled mother says, "So, as I was saying, OP should forget about college. It is a waste of time, and what is he going to do with all that knowledge? Besides, you need money for the various procedures that you need to undergo." My mum was really ill. She needed 4 surgeries. One on her nose, hands, lips. That surgery because her upper teeth broke and entered her lower lip. And also one on her leg. She says, "Yeah, whatever. He could work in the same restaurant where my kid and my husband are working." We'll see about that. I'll have to ask my kid. No, he said he doesn't mind." My mum looks at me and raises an eyebrow. I shrug and tell her that the entitled mother is bullcrapping. Mum says to him, "He would not do that. Maybe as a part-time, yes, but he will not give up college." The entitled mother says, "Yeah, okay, well his work starts tomorrow." Before my mum could say anything, the entitled mother hung up. I explain my plans to my mum, and she seems proud. Now when I go back to check my phone, I see that the entitled kid has lied, and I apparently will work in his dad's restaurant and stuff, and that I accepted to work for free. I took the liberty to forward a message to all my friends individually, explaining what just happened, and they believed me. The entitled kid was kicked out of the WhatsApp group and never added again. In the morning, the entitled kid's dad calls again, and I pick up. "Where are you? Work started an hour ago." What? The dad goes on to explain how I apparently agreed to work for his small tandoori restaurant, and how I'm a liar, and how I shouldn't be lying as a hafiz, someone who memorizes the Quran. Once he finishes his rant, I explain to him what happened the night before and stuff. Luckily, the dad was understanding and apologized for the entitled mother's crap. It has been 2 years since the incident, and we held one of those meetups last week. FYI, the entitled kid self-invited himself to the group meetup. Friend 1 says, "What do you want, kid? Get lost." F2 says, "Fudge off, mate. You're a fudging liar. Your mum's just jealous that we managed to achieve something unlike you, leeching off your parents." And he says to them, "Shut the fudge up. I make more money than all of you combined." Now, most of my friends were teachers in the evening madrasas, which is the Islamic classes for ages between 6 to 14, who each earned around £10 an hour. The school was owned by the friend 1's dad, so he gave most of us jobs and a really good pay. The friend 1 asks, "How much do you get an hour?" And the kid says, "Oh, £5. And we all burst out laughing. And the kid says, "See, I told you you wouldn't believe me." He had the biggest crap-eating grin on his face. "We all get like £10 an hour by working with flexible hours, and you think you were so much more superior than us." The kid's speechless. After that, he just left. An hour later, we were about to leave. Now after the meetup, I was planning on going to the post office to send off the application form for my university. So after parting ways, me, friend 1, 2, and 3 decided to go to the post office. They also needed to give in their forms. This was when the nuclear missile was fired. We enter the post office to see the kid and the entitled mother. We quietly ignore them and just stand in line waiting for our turn. The mother says to us, what brings you here? Friend 1 says, we came here to submit our university forms. Oh, okay. So what's the point in spending thousands of pounds in education when you can just work in a tandoori restaurant like my kid? Now let me explain. The tandoori that the entitled kid worked at was literally crap. It was infested with cockroaches, flies, and all sorts of other stuff. Furthermore, the shop got a food hygiene rating of 2 twice. Bear in mind that if any restaurant gets a hygiene rating below 2 once, it gets closed down. We just stayed quiet and waited our turn. We decided to go all together as we were applying for the same university. We pulled out the form from our bags and voila, the forms magically disappear from our hands. I say to the mother, please give our forms back, and she goes, you've studied enough. You're a Hafiz, and you will graduate from college in like 2 months anyway. Let my kid have a go at studying. I was dumbfounded by the stupidity of this woman. I say to her, please give our forms back. I would have snatched the envelopes from her hands, but I couldn't, seeing that she was holding them with dear life. She then proceeds to open the friend 1's envelope and pull out the document. Me and friend 3 decided to take the opportunity to grab the other 2 envelopes and post them. However, for friend 1 it was goodbye. The entitled mother was so jealous that she literally spat on the form and covered it with phlegm. Friend 1 says, what the heck? That's what you get for beating my kid. The entitled kid always acted high and mighty. He would bully OP constantly and he would never pay attention in class. He would sleep in class and he never even studied at home. Your kid has no ambition whatsoever. He's just a waste of space. How dare you speak about him like that? Shut the fudge up. I would have called the police, but I don't have time for your bullcrap. I have to print a new form now online and post it by tomorrow. FYI, the form was literally unusable. It was literally filled and saturated with spit and phlegm. In the end, friend 1 managed to post a new form in time and got an interview the next month. The entitled mother is still trying to convince our parents to drop us out of uni. Also, we ended up blocking the kid, but the mum still calls on landline, which we can't do much about. P.S. I don't have anything against people working in cheap restaurants. I actually think it's a great job feeding people. Our next story is titled, Entitled Kid Says, You Illegal Immigrant! Another story from my secondary school. As some of you may know, I'm a Bengali guy that was born in Italy, and I stayed there for 11 years, and moved then to the UK for a better education. Cast of this story is EK, huge mammoth, 6 feet tall and 3 feet wide. Me, bow down before your king, 4 feet tall, 1 foot wide. By the way, both the entitled kid and me were South Asians. On with the story. We were at school, lunch break around 1:30. The school was kind of small, with around 90 kids, and in the lunch hall there were around 5 teachers. I was eating and minding my business in a lone corner of the hall when the entitled kid walks up to me, and he goes, "What you doing?" "Eating." "Illegal immigrants like you should not be eating." I stay silent. Then he rambles on and on about how immigrants are destroying the country. "Aren't you an immigrant as well? Your parents told me that you moved from Bangladesh, so you don't know what you're talking about, mate." He's silent now, and he says, "Shut up! At least I'm legally here." "Nah, mate, your parents told me that your passport expired last year. Also, I'm not illegal, as I have a European passport, which allows me to live in any country in the European Union." The entitled kid's face went from a crap-eating grin to a monster frown. He tried to grab me by my collar, but I just screamed, and he let go, storming off into the distance. Unfortunately, he continued all throughout secondary. As all of you may know, he's a total jerk to me, but he didn't do jack crap. Our next story is titled, Why Can't You Be More Like the Entitled Kid? So, English is my third language and I'm sorry for the grammar. Introducing our cast, e.g. entitled old hag, whose grandmother, mum, entitled cousin, aka fudging king of filth. A is a nice auntie and U is a nice uncle, who are both the mum and dad of the cousin. This is a short one. When I was in secondary school, one of my uncles would visit often. When he would visit, I would often be in my room studying, as usual, as I didn't have any friends until I was in year 11. I didn't have a gaming console and still don't, and my scummy brothers would just whine over nothing, so I would just study or daydream in my room. On this particular visit, he brought his wife and his kid, who was a spoiled piece of crap. E.g. spoiled him. As usual, I was studying in my room, and I decided to take a toilet break and greet my cool uncle. What I heard when I left the room left 12-year-old me in tears and scarred. Grandma says, "EK, you're such a nice kid." "Aw, thank you." "Oh, how is OP doing?" "Oh, him? Why do you even care about that loser?" They're silent at this. "He is passing his classes, but he never leaves his room. He's too antisocial and he never talks to anyone." They're quiet again. "Why can't he be more like your kid? Honestly, I would have rather him dead and just be happy with my younger grandson." At this point, I saw my mum leaving the living room with a red face. I tried to run back into my room, but before I could do that, she hugged me and then left. This was the first time in 6 years someone had taken my side. The uncle and auntie said, "Sorry, we have to leave." "No, stay, eat dinner, then go." "Not after what you just said about your own grandson." Then they just left. The entitled kid for some reason remained. I re-entered the room and finished my work. At around 3 AM, the entitled kid walks into my room and says, "Get up!" What? It's 3 AM, go back to sleep, man. The kid starts crying like I hit him or something. I roll my eyes and go back to sleep. Well, I try to at least, the key word is try. About 5 minutes later, the entitled grandmother storms into my room and goes, "What have you done to my grandson?" I was still ticked about what she said earlier, so I just ignored her. She thought it would be a good idea to pour cold water on me. "Hey, fudge off!" I gave her the finger and pushed them out of my room and went back to sleep, still wet. The duvet, bedsheet and pillow were all wet. In the morning I wake up to see all of my stuff missing. And I say, "Mum, have you seen my stuff?" "No, have you tried asking your grandmother?" "Grandma, have you seen my stuff?" I said this as politely as possible. "How dare you accuse me of stealing your stuff?" I say nothing and just walk away. Later that afternoon, the uncle comes and returns all of my stuff. Turns out the entitled kid took my laptop, books, and a small brick phone, and the entitled grandmother allowed him to. I thanked my uncle and he apologized for the kid's behavior. The entitled kid and grandma are still the biggest douchebags in the world. Entitled grandma and family, including my own mum and dad, continue to compare me to the entitled kid, who's good for nothing. All he does is play football all day and sleep, and is extremely rude and acts like a roadman. Honestly, I'm surrounded by entitled scroungers. Next story is titled, EK, You Were Born with Two Dads. So, for some backstory, this happened when I was in grade 9. The kid who bullied me was in year 7. The characters are entitled kid, disciplinary monitor, and my mum. She's a great mum. She didn't believe me throughout this whole ordeal though. Basically, when the year started, there was this kid that honestly was shorter than a coach tire. He was probably 3 foot tall, but he was dangerous as fudge. I was bullied throughout my entire childhood, and most of my teenagehood. This whole thing started around January and lasted till May. This 3 foot tall midget would often insult me by calling me a gang member and crap like that. That didn't really bother me. When he saw that wasn't working though, he proceeded to start tripping me during lunch. I myself was around 4 feet 9 at the time, so it was fairly easy for him to trip me. Also, given the fact that we sit on the floor and eat, eating on the floor was amazing. I went to an Islamic school. He would often stretch his legs out when I would walk past. I was also used to this as well. I didn't want to do anything because 1, it wasn't affecting me, and 2, he was weak as fudge. This continued till around March and April. Here in the UK we have 2 weeks holidays in April, so after the holidays this crotch goblin became a demon. He would mock me for being short, mock me for being an immigrant, mock me for not bringing in money, mock me for only having 1 friend, mock me because I packed lunch every day, and basic crap like that. I didn't let it get to me and shrugged it off. Honestly, at this point bullying was like food for me. It fueled me and motivated me. However, one day this stupid midget crossed the line. Now, my mum can't work because of her various ailments, and my dad works abroad because he didn't want to leave his job, and it paid him well. I mean, really well. On that one particularly, the entitled kid said, and I quote, "You have 2 dads. One fudges your mum, and the other brings food." When he said that, I saw red. He was calling my ill mum a tramp. I told my friends to take him away, or else I would have ended up sending him to the hospital. Despite the various warnings from my friends and bullies alike, this kid didn't listen. Backstory: back in grade 6, when I was first moved to the UK, someone insulted my mum and I sent them to the hospital. Luckily, it was like the last month of the year, and they saw that I did it for self-defense, so I was let off. Unfortunately, this went on my academic record, so everyone in my class knows about this incident that happened in year 6. Back to the story. I decided to cool off because I didn't want to raise my hand on a toddler. That was the first day in 3 years that I didn't get bullied by my class bullies. This continued for about another week or so until I snapped. Backstory: in school we had 2 breaks, one from 10 to 10:30, and the next break was lunch break from 12:30 to 1:30. During the morning break, the teachers would often take the entire school to a pretty large park. Back to the story now. On this particular day, this dwarf thought it would be a good idea to insult my mother and my father, who I get to see 4 times a week for 2 weeks. I decided to walk off, or else this kid could have died, but he insisted in following me and taunting me. In the corner of the park there are some trees. As it was now May, the trees already had leaves. Since the tree branches were populated by green leaves, that whole corner would be dark and an outsider would not see anything. I decided to lure that brat there. Say that again, I dare ya. You have 2 dads. One fudges your mom and the other brings food. Also, your dad's a cheater. Oh, is that so? Listen, you little piece of crap. Insult me all you want, but if I ever hear you insulting my parents, I don't know what I'll do to you. Ask my classmates. What happened to that kid who thought it was a good idea to insult my parents? And I begin to walk away. Don't worry, I won't insult your tramp mother. Oh, that was the final straw. I decided to chase him through the park, to the point that he was exhausted. I did that cause, if I beat him up in that dark corner of the park, I wouldn't have any evidence, so I would get expelled. I chased him throughout the park to make sure that he was huffing and puffing. The disciplinary monitor says, "Hey, what have you done to the kid?" I smile and say, "Oh, we were just playing," while shooting dagger eyes to the kid. The entitled kid with a fake smile goes, "Yeah, we were just playing." The monitor then says, "Alright." After that we went back to the school. Unfortunately, the kid continued. After school I say to him, "Hey kid, come here." And he says, "What do you want, you illegitimate child?" "How old are you?" 11. "Have you asked my classmates about the incident in primary?" "Yeah." "Well, if you don't want to end up like him, I suggest you stop." "Stop what?" "Insulting my parents." "Oh, those extremely horny and perverted people?" I punched him right in the gut in the middle of the street. "Sorry, I was trying to fix my bag and my hand slipped, man." "What the heck, man?" Say something like that ever again in your life and I won't hesitate to disable you. Normally I'm a calm person, but when someone insults and slanders my parents, I don't let them off easily. Even the bullies in my class knew of this sacred rule. The kid continued to slander my parents to the point where there were even rumors going around the school. Thankfully, the principal called an assembly and negated the rumors. By the way, I forgot to mention earlier, I told the monitor about this and he just said, "Look at him compared to you. He's too small for you to bully him. Just ignore him." That was the first time, and then the second time he said, "He should be scared of you. He's tiny." Every time I would go to him, I would receive the same answer, which was understandable as this kid was only 3 feet tall and was always quiet in lessons. I told other teachers, but they just laughed it off or gave him 5 hours attention over the period of 1 week and called his parents. The entitled kid continued his antics until one day I showed him who's boss. You can say he became a grapevine. Both the principal and the monitor called me to the office. P is principal. "Why have you beaten up the entitled kid?" I'm clearly raging and I go, "You can ask him." "Don't show me attitude." "He insulted me. He physically tripped me over 100 times and began to insult my parents." "Why didn't you tell someone?" I told the DM, but he wouldn't listen, which is understandable given the kid's size. I told other teachers. Some laughed it off while the other teachers took time to punish him, but... You know all too well violence doesn't solve the problem. I warned him multiple times. Everyone knows not to insult my parents. You should have told your parents and brought them in. We could have sorted something out. I told my parents and they told me to let it go. Oh. But that still doesn't take away from the fact that you beat up someone who was much younger than you. Well, if you did your job, the kid wouldn't be looking like a grapevine. Anyway, we'll look into this. For now, I decided to put you into seclusion. Alright. You will only come out during prayer time, and all classwork will be given to you. Also, if you need assistance, feel free to ask me. I'll call the teacher. Well then where do I stay? In my office. Okay. Now go get your stuff. I walk upstairs and get my stuff and sit in the office. I waited for like a week, thinking I would be expelled and £3,300 would go to waste. But for now, my mum found out and grounded me. A week later, Auntie enters the story. The principal says, "Please take your seat." The principal explains his findings, about how the entitled kid insulted me and I didn't do anything and stuff like that. Also how I let the entitled kid off most of the time. For injuring the entitled kid really badly, we decided to suspend him for a week. We would have expelled him, but due to the reason that he didn't initialize it and tried to stay away from him, we decided to just suspend him. Well, if the monitor did his job properly, then none of this would have happened. Also, I'd like to speak to the kid's parents and ask them what kind of demon they're raising. Unfortunately, both parents are really busy. We've tried to contact them on multiple occasions, but we got no response. They were arguing for like another hour, whether I should be suspended or not. In the end, I didn't get suspended. However, the entitled kid was suspended for 1 week and then internally suspended for another 3 weeks. He continued to harass me, but didn't dare mention about my parents. On the last day of the academic year, my entire class of 20 people rushed him. When the year started, he stopped being a butt. Unfortunately, till today, he still hasn't apologized. Well, I don't really care anymore. Yeah, I know the story may seem to have loopholes, but trust me, all this is real. Our last story of the day is, stop faking your illness. This happened to me a few months ago. E.g., entitled old fudge, who's the grandma, and my mum. For a couple of months, I had severe back pain. I could barely pray. I'm a Muslim. I told my family and they just shrugged it off until it became so bad that I was limping. My grandma says, "It's your fault for being ill. Stop sitting like a turtle." My mum says, "Stop sitting like a turtle and it will go away." This is what they said, never once actually looking at me. I was taken to the doctors once by my mum when my grandfather and grandmother went to Bangladesh. The doctor said that my spine was pressing on one of my nerves. I did 6 months of physiotherapy and thankfully I got better. For the past few months, anything I eat comes back out within 5 to 6 minutes as vomit. The food which I eat stays solid even when I chew my food like 30 times. I tell my family about this and as usual, they just shrug it off thinking that I'm making it up, even when they see me vomiting. Because of that reason, I became so conservative, I literally don't tell them anything about anything. My success, my failures, my ailments, my events, graduation and stuff like that. None of it. Anyway, thank you everyone for your concern. Hey there guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think of it in the comments and I'll be sure to get back to you. If you want to see some of my latest content, smash that big old box in the middle and subscribe for more background noise. Also, check out my new channel called Cobber, link in the description and in that card at the top right of the screen. With that said, this has been I Read Reddit and I'm signing off today. Hooroo mate.